What's going on, you guys? It is Corbin Stuckey of Pixel Talk here. Something you guys have probably noticed, Steven's not here. Unfortunately, Steven couldn't come over today. He had work, which I totally understand. Something you guys probably don't know about Steven. Steven's actually a flight instructor. He teaches students how to go up in the air, and that's really commendable. I really respect Steven for that because he was able to get a job right after college. He has something set in stone. He has something that he has to go to work every day for. Whereas me, I just stay at home. I make YouTube videos. I do wedding photography from time to time to keep myself up. So that's really cool that Steven is able to have a career right after college. So I just have mad respect for him. Steven, if you're watching this, it's totally fine that you could not come over. I totally understand completely. And you don't really even need to watch these sequels for the new Halloween film, because the new Halloween film ignores the sequels, but I really wanted to talk about them because they're nostalgic and everything. And this Halloween film, Halloween H20, 20 years later, I've actually never seen this one, and I watched it yesterday, and I really like it. Actually, it's really one of the better sequels. It's very close to Halloween 4, where it's acknowledging that some time has taken place. It's like an anniversary film. Whereas Halloween 4 was 10 years later after Halloween, and this is 20 years later after Halloween. You can tell that the people behind this realized that this had to be taken with precaution because this was an anniversary film. And you can tell that there was some care put into this, and I really like it. There are a couple minor issues that I have, but for the most part, this is a really, really good sequel. I'd probably put this in the top 3 or 4 of the top Halloween films for sure. And let's talk about H20. So this is a sequel to the second one. So Laurie apparently faked her death at one point. She died in a car accident, and she started a new life. And she has a son in this film. She has a 17-year-old son. And she's actually the head mistress of a boarding school where her son actually goes to as well. So, awkward. And she is actually still dealing with PTSD from the Halloween night of 1978. She has to take medication. She's actually an alcoholic. And she keeps having flashbacks to Michael Myers. This film, like I said, I really enjoy it because, as I've been saying, you can tell that they put a lot of care into this because this was not only just an anniversary film, this had the return of Jamie Lee Curtis, so you could tell that they wanted to pay respect to the original. There's actually a couple callbacks, I believe, to the original, and we'll get into that later because it involves with the ending. And obviously, one of the main issues that I have with this film, minor issues, is the continuity. So I think it does ignore the events of 4, 5, and 6, but there is stuff that's mentioned in this film that is acknowledged in the fourth film. For example, Laurie died. And in this film, it tells the audience that Laurie did not die. She faked her death. Also, it's mentioned, even though the film ignores parts 4, 5, and 6, that Loomis still survived Halloween 2 from that explosion. Apparently, he was being taken care of by the nurse from the first Halloween film. So that's pretty interesting that even though this film ignores 4, 5, and 6, Loomis still survived. Now, maybe you could say that he was a burn victim and he was taken care of by this nurse. I don't know, but I don't really think the film leads you to believe that. I think it's kind of cool, though, that they somewhat acknowledge the sequels because, they just wanted to tell the audience, hey, we're still keeping them in mind, but we are just not fully acknowledging them. If the sequels were, fully acknowledged, then it would be weird that, Laurie survived these events, the car accident and stuff, and she had a daughter named Jamie, and she abandoned her, pretty much. You have to basically ignore 4, 5, and 6, because there's kind of a moral dilemma here, where if those films are taken into consideration, then Laurie's an asshole. And in this film also, Laurie has a son named John, so if you're taking 4, 5, and 6 into consideration, did you just favor your son over your daughter? That's why I have to believe that 4, 5, and 6 did not happen, and she only just has a son in this film. So yeah, and there's actually a lot of stuff going on there as well, with her dealing with her alcoholism and her PTSD. She's very protective of her son, and it really causes family drama. He wants to go on a school trip, but she's not allowing it because, you know, it's the night of Halloween that this film takes place. So she's very overly extra precautious about her son, even though it's been 20 years and you saw Michael Myers die, but you just still have this gut feeling. Granted, though, Loomis shot him 6 times! There's also a part of this film that seems to be really self-aware. I'm talking about the humor itself. This film came out in 1998, so this was 2 years after Scream. And you can tell that this film took notes from Scream, and they just wanted to be self-aware at some points. And they also just wanted to be humorous as well. Joseph Gordon-Levitt is actually in the beginning of this film. And very humorous stuff, honestly. I really like that. It was very well written. And yeah, so basically what happens in the beginning of this film is Michael goes to where this first nurse from the first Halloween film is living, and he steals documents about Laurie Strode, and he's able to track her down to this boarding school. But the problem that I have with this is, why now? Why, it's been 20 years. So also, how did you survive Halloween 2, with the fire and everything? And why are you just now wanting to find your sister? That doesn't really make sense to me, but at the same time, though, maybe they just wanted to acknowledge the sequel somewhat, oh, maybe he was just doing that stuff. He was focused on getting Jamie instead of Laurie, but at the same time, I have to think that they ignored 4, 5, and 6 because that makes Laurie seem like a dick. So, I don't know, it's just really weird, but whatever. This stupid continuity. So he finds the school, and Laurie's son is there, and obviously murder happens. And this is me going back to what I said about this film kind of being a mirrored reflection of the first film, is that there's not actually a lot of kills in this film. In the original film, only 3 people died, minus Michael Myers' sister from the past. Only 3 teenagers die, and in this one, it seems to be a limited amount. There's actually a scene where, I actually forgot that LL Cool J was in this film, where Michael is behind the security guard, and he chooses not to kill him because the security guard doesn't see Michael. So that was just really cool that it didn't have to be an unnecessary kill. He wanted to go into the school and get Laurie. So this film isn't overridden with kills. It's more of suspense like the first one, which I really appreciate. And then there's the scene where Laurie closes the door and she sees through the glass that it is in fact Michael that is at this school now. And I love that fear in her eyes that this being is now back in her life after so many years of PTSD. I really like that a lot. It's just there's moments in this film, like Halloween 4, there are memorable moments that I just really appreciate about this film, and watching it for the first time, I actually really like it. I really like it a lot. And then there's the final showdown between Laurie and Michael in the school. I actually like that little callback to the original film where he tells her son and his girlfriend to go down the street to the neighbor's house, like the first film where she's talking to the kids she's babysitting. I thought that was really cool. I was like, oh my god, that's a little reference right there. And then there's the showdown, which I thought was just awesome. And the ending of this film, where everyone thinks that Michael is dead. They're taking his body to the morgue or whatever, the police are. And she goes full on crazy, nope, he's not dead. She takes a gun from a police officer, makes them load the body into the van, drives off with the van, and then just kills him, pretty much. After a car accident, he's trapped, and then she chops his head off. That's really smart. And honestly, I think that is the best way to end this film, with Laurie just doing that. It's just really cathartic. You see Michael reach out to Laurie, and you see Laurie, almost give in and show a little bit of compassion towards her brother, but she decides, nope, I'm gonna kill him. And I just think that's like a really perfect ending to this series. Unfortunately, there was a sequel. So yeah, guys, that's what I thought of Halloween H2O. I really enjoyed this film a lot. Besides LL Cool J writing erotica fiction. It's a really good sequel in terms of Halloween films. It's not perfect, but given everything that we've had thus far with this series, like Halloween 6, I really like it a lot. I've never seen this film before, and watching it for the first time, I was like, this is actually really cool. I really like this a lot. Even though there's continuity errors, or just, I don't know, stuff that's ignored, that might confuse, like, audiences. It's cool. I really like it. So yes, guys, that was my review to H2O. Comment down below what you thought of this film. Like this video, share it, and please subscribe to Pixel Talk if you haven't yet for more movie reviews, game reviews, and trailer reactions, and pop culture stuff. And click that notification button to be notified when we make a new video. And yeah, I just really appreciate it. Thank you guys so much. I am Corbin Stuckey, and this is Pixel Talk.